Good evening and welcome to another special edition of What's Up at City Tranquility. I'm your host, Pete Pardo. Today is Tuesday, January the 31st, 2017. And unfortunately, 2017 is kind of starting off just as 2016 ended. We're seeing way too many deaths from a lot of the musical heroes of the past and present. As well as other folks in the entertainment industry. And today is another very sad day. The passing of John Wetton, former bass player and vocalist from King Crimson, Asia, UK, Roxy Music, Uriah Heep, Mogul Thrash. I mean, Wetton has been one of the most kind of dominant vocalists as well as bass players on the progressive rock scene for many a years, since easily the early 70s. And was diagnosed with stomach cancer not long ago, suffered a bout with alcoholism a few years ago as well. He hasn't had his life has been pretty tough the last few years, and unfortunately John succumbed to the dreaded cancer early this morning. And, we're... the rock scene is at a loss today. It wasn't long ago that we lost Greg Lake from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, also from King Crimson. So it's kind of like two iconic and legendary prog vocalists and bass players from the 70s have been taken from us in a very short span of time, so close to each other. So today we're going to take a quick look at John Wetton and his career, but also we want to talk a little bit about two other guys that we lost recently. Butch Trucks, one of the two legendary drummers from the Allman Brothers Band, as well as Geoff Nicholls, keyboard player who had spent quite a bit of time with Black Sabbath over the years, as well as Quartz, one of the bands that kind of emerged on the new wave of British heavy metal scene. So we're going to start off with Wetton here for a bit. And folks, just to let you know, we don't plan for these type of shows, and I don't have anything scripted here. I'm just kind of, talking from my heart and from my gut. And John Wetton has been very special to me for a long period of time. So it's this is not a happy day at all. But we want to kind of remember all that John brought to the scene over the last 40 plus years. And for me it kind of starts with 1973, Lark's Tongue and Aspic. Hopefully you can see that. His first introduction into the world of King Crimson. We've got it playing in the background here. It's it's majestic, it's savage, it's progressive, it's complex, it's frightening, it's beautiful. The work of King Crimson during those years with Robert Fripp and John Wetton and Bill Bruford and Mr. Cross on violin, there he is playing in the background. You really, it's hard to describe the music that these guys created together. And, Book of Saturday, the title track, Exile, Easy Money, The Talking Drum. This is just a classic of early 70s progressive rock. Wetton's vocals. All of a sudden, here he comes into King Crimson. He had been with Family before and Mogul Thrash, so it's not like Wetton was a complete unknown. But he comes into King Crimson, all of a sudden he delivers these vocals that are pretty much on par with what Greg Lake did, those first two albums with the band. But that muscular, heavy bass playing. All of a sudden, the band gets into this heavier material. These kick-ass improvisations, unlike anything they'd done before. So you've got the heavy guitar and the bass, Bruford's jazzy drumming. You've got David Cross's violin. You got the mellotrons. Jamie Muir on this album also contributing percussion. Just mind-blowing stuff. And they would go on from there to Starless and Bible Black barely a year later. And here we've got The Great Deceiver and Lament. And, The Night Watch, just killer, kind of like I said, kind of like these complex yet loose improvisations that were like frightening and nightmarish, but like so beautiful at the same time. You know, the Mincer, Starless and Bible Black, Fracture, just great stuff. So, you know, unfortunately, this era of the band didn't really last too long, but they did a lot in the few years they were together. And, you know, Wetton played a huge part of it. The culmination was, of course, Red. A mind-blowing album, as all three of these are. So again, here they were pretty much related to the, or relegated to the trio of Fripp, Wetton, and Bruford. Cross, there's some violin parts from Cross on here, but by the time they actually had finished this album, they were basically just a trio, went out and did a quick tour, and then they were done, right? So here we've got the title track, Red, which is instrumental, heavy, almost proto-metal-ish, booming bass riffs from Wetton, and metallic shards of guitar noise from Fripp, and just Wetton all over the place underneath. Also, what do we got here? Fallen Angel, One More Red Nightmare, another fantastic tune, Providence, and then of course Starless, which for me could be the best vocal performance from John Wetton ever. You know, it's funny how you talk about, it feels like it was just yesterday that I was doing the same type of show when Greg Lake passed. And for me, you know, Epitaph was Greg Lake's signature vocal performance ever in his entire career, and it came with King Crimson. Well, for me, Starless, for John Wetton, in King Crimson just a few short years later, is the song that I will always remember and tie into the great legacy that is John Wetton. But he didn't stop there, folks. No, he totally did not. So, you know, not too long after King Crimson, he went and joined, kind of a strange combination, but you know what? It worked for the brief period of time it did. He went and joined up with British hard rock and prog and boogie band Uriah Heep for the Return to Fantasy album. Didn't play that big of a role on here, mostly playing the bass, some backup vocals, but then not long after that they released this album, The High and Mighty, where he did some lead vocals, lots of backing vocals. Again, you know, he kind of fit in well because Heep were obviously, you know, a pretty rockin' band, doing some different stuff than King Crimson. So, you know, Wetton was relied less on his virtuoso bass skills, more to kind of solidify the rhythms, add some heft to it, because Heep were a pretty hefty band, and add those backing vocals, and he got to sing a little lead while he, you know, as he went along. So, kind of a cool little treat. You know, he went on to spend some time with Roxy Music, but more importantly, he formed a band with Bill Bruford and Alan Holdsworth and Eddie Jobson called UK, which another mind-blowing band that kind of bridged the gap between jazz fusion and 70s progressive rock. You had these wonderful keyboards and Holdsworth's blinding guitar, Wetton's great vocals and like booming bass, and you know, and of course Bruford doing it all underneath. A phenomenal album that was followed up by Danger Money not long after. You know, Holdsworth is out. In comes, oh my God, I'm totally forgetting his name. From Zappa. Oh my God, I'm totally forgetting his name. Hold on, folks. Hold on. Hold on. Terry Bozzio. Bruford's out. Bozzio is in. Sorry, folks. It's been a long day. And, you know, so Jobson, Wetton, Bozzio, down to a trio. Still very, very cool stuff again. You know, that whole kind of jazz fusion, prog rock mix. You almost don't even miss Holdsworth guitar. There's so much going on here. Jobson doing all sorts of great stuff on the keyboards. Again, another great album. A landmark in progressive rock. Of course, UK didn't last too long. But turn of the 80s. All of a sudden, you know, we're starting to hear, you know, a lot of bands from that era, Rush, Gentle Giant, Yes, starting to turn to more commercial waters. Well, you know, speaking of Yes, Steve Howe exits Yes after the Drama album, right? Emerson, Lake and Palmer go their separate ways. Colin Palmer's waiting in the wings, right? Jeff Downs, who from the Buggles also was with Steve Howe and Yes on the Drama album, he's free because Yes is no more. So what happens? Wetton, Downs, Howe, and Palmer formed Asia, right? This album was huge, huge. Bridged the gap between pop and progressive rock like never before. Sold millions of copies, sold out tour, hits all over the radio. You know, again, so many great songs on here. Soul Survivor. You know, I don't even need to go into all the hits that were from here because there were so many of them. Time and time again, heat of the moment. You know it all, right? And again, what's at the forefront? Wetton's voice. It's not like these guys went full on prog because this was more of like a pop rock project. So they didn't focus on instrumental brilliance, although there was a lot of it. Great keyboards, great guitar, you know, tight songs, killer drumming, but it was more for the songs. Wetton really, really shined. So, you know, that was, you know, again, most of this stuff happened between the years of, you know, like 73. And I'm not discounting the stuff that Wetton did with Mogul Thrash Family, but King Crimson through Asia, and he did a lot more stuff with Asia as well. You know, they even had a reunion in the mid-late 2000s. We're recording stuff up until recently. So Wetton's been busy. He's had a very robust solo career. He did some work with District 97. You know, he's been such a voice and focal point of prog for so long. It's just hard to believe that he's not here anymore. So, you know, it's just a sad day. It's a really sad day. And what makes it even worse is that Lake and Wetton, who, like I said, the two of them were such pinnacles, such strongholds of the prog community for so long, both leave us in such a short period of time from each other. It really sucks, folks. So John Wetton, and again, none of these guys are making it to 70. John Wetton's 67 years old, and he just got married recently too, which makes it even worse. Butch Trucks, long time co-drummer in the Allman Brothers Band. You know, one of the greatest drummers that ever lived. Died from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. You know, a really sad story. Apparently had a lot of financial problems. Really sad story. We all know the Allman Brothers kind of retired a few years ago. He apparently was doing some solo stuff, pretty busy. So this kind of comes out of left field. And again, you know, those first three Allman Brothers albums, live at the Fillmore. But, you know, more importantly, well, not more importantly, because that stuff is legendary, but, you know, all those great Allman Brothers albums when they reunited in the late 80s and into the 90s. Great stuff. I've seen the Allman Brothers Band numerous times live. And just phenomenal stuff. The dual drumming, just incredible. He's going to be missed. And Geoff Nicholls, you know, the cornerstone of the Black Sabbath sound from a keyboard perspective. You know, I mean, joined the band when Ronnie James Dio did for Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules. Nicholls' keyboards were there. Again, not big up front in the mix. And live, you didn't see him on stage, but he was there. He was with Tony throughout the 80s. You know, unfortunately, you know, Geoff never had a chance to really come out in the spotlight with the rest of the band, which is a shame. Great player, added some great sounds and textures to a lot of Sabbath albums in the 80s. He also played with Quartz, one of those kick-ass new wave of British heavy metal bands that kind of emerged in the late 70s, and two really classic albums that he appeared on. Another guy, you know, all three of these guys dead from cancer. You know, it's about time we stop that dreaded scene. It really is. We're losing too many of our favorites from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and it needs to stop. These guys are not even really making it to 70 years old, and that's a real shame. We want to have them around longer than that. So, to Geoff Nicholls and Butch Trucks and John Wetton, rest in peace, my friends. You have given me personally a lifetime of musical enjoyment, and the world is a much darker and emptier place without you. I'm hoping we don't have to do this too much more in this year in 2017 because I got really tired of doing this last year. I don't enjoy doing these, folks. I really don't. But I feel like it's my duty to pay tribute to our heroes in this fashion, as much as we'll miss them. So, rest in peace, my friends. To everybody here, to all the families of the three, we feel for you. We're thinking of you. We're praying for you. And we'll go on. So pull out your King Crimson, your Asia, your UK, your Allman Brothers, your Black Sabbath albums tonight and tomorrow and the rest of the week, and just treasure the moments as you will for the rest of our lives. And remember all the great joy that these three musicians have brought to us over the years. So here's to you. Rest in peace. I know you're all up there playing with the greats. And we'll see you very, very soon for another edition of What's Hot with Sea Tranquility with our normal new releases and all that good stuff. But for now, take care. We'll talk to you soon.